what's going on.
Are you ready to be the happiest person that you know? I hope so, and I want to be the guy to take you there. My name is Joe, and I'm a retired firefighter, and I'm the happiest person that I know, despite the fact that several years ago, I literally had a gun to my own head after an on-the-job injury forced me into a medical retirement, followed by the loss of several loved ones, and a dark battle with grief, PTSD, and depression. But I fought my way out of that and I prevailed, and I gained unshakable joy and the amazing ability to be totally okay, even when my life circumstances aren't okay at all. And now, nothing brings me greater happiness than sharing with people the tools that led me here, which is exactly what I'm doing at the Grit, Growth, and Gratitude podcast. I'm dropping episodes every week that teach you how to maximize your happiness when times are good and barrel through any obstacle when times are rough. So subscribe now wherever you listen to podcasts, because you deserve to have way more thrive days than just survive days, and to have a kick-ass life that you enjoy. I'll see you there.
Benvenuti al fantastico show He Said She Heard. Chi è l'ospite di oggi, Mike?
Asher Laub.
Oh, welcome to our show. Could you repeat the name, Mike?
Asher Laub.
Let's welcome our guest today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of He Said, She Heard. And I'm your host, Mike Fox, and we are enjoying the Best of Both Worlds season. And if you're just tuning in at this part of the season, what does that mean exactly? Well, I started the podcast off as a sketch comedy podcast, and over time it's evolved into an interview podcast. And the last season was a lot of just interviews, a few skits, but mostly interviews. But some people like both, so I figured, well, I'm going to give the audience, I'm going to give you the best of both worlds. So this episode is an interview episode, and I'm very excited about this particular episode because joining me is a violinist. He debuted as a classical violinist with the Buffalo Philharmonic, and he's been featured on many different major networks, PBS, CNN, NBC, and even in the New York Post. So joining me today is violinist Asher Laub. How are you?
Pretty good, Mike. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So tell us, about how you started. Is it 2 years old that you started playing violin?
2 and change.
Okay.
Definitely was in diapers when I started.
Definitely in diapers when you started. Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. So that was a great time to start. So, and you're the only one from your family that has been able to pursue this professionally as your full-time job. Am I correct?
Partially correct. I'm the only one who did pursue it professionally. I would say that my other 3 siblings could have easily pursued it professionally, considering that they also started it at a very young age and had private lessons. So I chose to take the risk because I'm an idiot.
But it's paid off though for you, right?
It has, but in a risky sort of way.
So would you say that it chose you in a way? Do you feel that was what happened? The violin chose you and you went with it?
I don't know if you've heard my other interviews, but that's pretty much verbatim what my wife told me. So I borrow that line, music chose me. I chose other careers, and then music kept coming back, paying the bills, so I just kind of opted into that. It was giving me the most joy in my life, and hit some moments of trauma, which were pretty stressful. I've shared with the public pretty frequently, but that was probably the impetus to making a crazy decision like this to make music a full-time career.
Make music a full-time career. That's amazing. So tell us the story behind your latest single, which, by the way, our listeners can listen to on Spotify. There's a link right in the show description below, folks.
Yeah, well, it's on all major platforms. I guess Spotify is the preferred go-to for most listeners. And it's hard for me to even keep track of the latest single because I'm literally releasing something new every month. But yeah, so that was actually one single ago. Okay. But although it's still very relevant, Mike, because I actually have the music video to Exodus ready to release. Well, I could do it today. It's just been waiting because I didn't want it to kind of eclipse my single release, A Tribute to Israel, which is a full symphony production, which I created for the FIDF. I did a whole concert for them out in Atlanta like a week or two ago. So I kind of produced that symphony, and the timing just worked out that I wasn't able to finish up the release of the music video for Exodus. But the song is out, A Tribute to Israel. So that's the latest release in a nutshell. And Exodus will be next. Couple days.
Honestly, when I listened to Exodus, I honestly could hear, because I'm not, I'll be honest with you, like I don't know a lot of other classical violinists by name like you do, but I do hear more than just musical influences in the music. For me, personally, it took me to a place in my mind where I was having these mental movies, and I was hearing some, like, I would say, classic cinema influences. Was that intended? Was that what's going through your mind when you were creating that piece?
Yeah, because very much so. And I'm, you got a lot of, I don't know if it's intuition or just a good sense of, like, I don't know, people, because it's exactly where my head is at. I try to meet my listeners where they're at. I try to bring music that is accessible and interesting to all of my listeners, which is a challenge. But the cinema component, like John Williams' influences, there's no question. Sync licensing is the direction for me professionally at this point. I do like 200 live events per year, but I've shifted a lot of that weight into that effort into cinema production, sync licensing, music libraries, that type of stuff. So music for movies.
That just makes me feel good knowing that when I'm listening to that, when you were creating that that's what you were thinking and experiencing, because other songs have a very cinematic sound. Like I also listened to, when I had it on my Spotify, after that song finished, Neon Dreams came up, which was more contemporary, but still cinematic. So sort of like a modern cinema nouveau almost. So it's just amazing that you, and I've heard you say in other interviews, bluegrass is a big influence for you as well. But it's amazing that you can reach listeners of different demographics all at the same time.
Well, that's really nice of you, Mike. That's what I try to do. I got a lot of picky listeners out there. They want to hear this, and I want to hear that. And I released a tribute to Israel, and I have a listener who wants a tribute to a different country. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want the listener who may be watching this to get offended. So I'm actually going to work on that. Like everybody wants something different. But the common denominator here is everybody wants to hear, like, most people that I know enjoy cinematic level music, like well produced stuff. At least people I'm associated with. So that's what I kind of aim for. It's what I like to hear, at least.
Well, honestly, in any type of genre, hearing something that's cinematic works on so many levels, because even if it's created for just a single or a full-length LP, whatever genre it may be, later on it could work for a movie.
Yeah, and that's sort of the intention. So I hope to get there, with some iconic movies with the productions that I'm making right now.
So just recently, well, maybe not very recently, but in the past few years, if I'm not mistaken, you've incorporated dancing into your performances. Am I correct?
Yeah. And that's sort of been, I'm going to say, like about 5-6 years old since I started. And that's something I have a lot of fun doing, specifically with break dancers, with other people that like to do choreography, that have the skill of choreography. I don't like to do it as much on my own. it just doesn't work out as well because there's a lot going on with the violin. But if I have additional dancers that are kind of complementing my movements, it's a lot
Right.
cooler.
Well, it's like I think about that because when I watch, let's say something like America's Got Talent, and then the judges sometimes, when they critique the performance, sometimes they might say the special effects are overshadowing the artist, but other times it kind of, I guess, accentuates the music, accentuates the emotion when you do see dancers in there because they're all working together and they're all sending the same universal message to the audience when you're watching a performance like that.
Yeah, I agree. I see it as a compliment, and it's kind of part and parcel to the performance of the lead. So in this case, myself on violin. Yeah, I'm actually I'm hesitant to mention this as an announcement, but there's been a commercial that's been sort of in the running. Myself, basically me dancing and playing violin. It's in a major commercial. We shot it like 2 years ago. They've been working on this like minute and a half commercial for like 2 years now. It's going to be on any day now, any week now. So, but I'll let you know ASAP. But
That's got to be exciting.
I guess. Yeah, well, it's exciting, and it's just kind of funny how long it's been taking.
Yes.
But part of it's my
Well,
fault.
it's like sometimes when, there's a long endeavor, sometimes it's like a pregnant pause. It's like you're like, I'm ready to do this, but there's other things happening in my life right now. And that's the whole thing with creativity is just, it's all about the right time. And so many things happen in our lives that might, get in the way of us releasing it. And we might think, my God, I should have done it. But then it's like, it's almost like an intuition. Like, this is the right time to release it, to drop it.
Yeah, well, it's actually not. It's a third party team that's kind of using me as the featured artist, but it's partially. I guess the decisions that I've made in terms of public performance has impacted the delay of the release. So in a nutshell, I haven't really been doing the choreography as much, so it's not kind of as hot. I've been focusing more on the symphonies and on like the sync production.
I see.
So there's been somewhat of a delay there. I'm trying to tackle both. Anyway, I just mentioned that just because it was in the context of the choreography that you brought up.
See, that's a lot. Those are a lot of things because it does sound like you do wear many hats. You're more than just the independent artist that you are, self-supporting. You're also an entrepreneur as well. So doing all those things just can't be easy, especially juggling that with family life, whatnot, and having a touring schedule that works for you and helps you maintain that balance. So there's so much going on for you.
Yeah, thank God there's a lot going on for me, and I know that this is the case with you and everybody else in the world. Like everybody's busy, but even as a musician, like sometimes people think, oh yeah, you just show up to a gig. Like people have actually asked me that and mentioned, oh yeah, you just don't you just do the performance? I'm like, no, there's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of background work that's involved in even getting to that stage.
It is. There's so many mechanics that go behind that before you finally get to that performance. But from the audience's perspective, sometimes they look at it and it looks easy for them almost, but you know yourself, this took a lot of work to get to that point where you're ready to just start and be ready whenever the curtain goes open, right?
Yeah, and it's also there's a challenge in overthinking things and over preparing. You can screw up if you over prepare. You have to kind of under prepare a little bit, and so you're kind of still on your toes. It's a tricky business.
Because you want to make it seem extemporaneous, to not seem so too polished in a way, so that way. But the thing is what you're doing is you're creating something that people can relate to, and you're able to have such a broad audience, and it's amazing because the violin's a classical instrument, but you are using it in a way to relate to modern audiences, which is just an amazing gift that I'm sure brings you joy because you're doing it from your heart, and I did hear you say in one previous interview, it's just like you want to make people happy, and that makes you happy.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons you did your homework, Mike. I wasn't even expecting you to know me that well. Maybe you didn't do your homework; you just know me. But again, that's why I'm impressed. But this is why I chose this career. It's life's short, and Before you know it, you're old and gray, and it's like I crave the human connection. I feel like I can't stand. I don't know, the corporate type environment. I work in a corporate type environment. I work with corporations, but I mean like the corporate type of situation where everything's like, where you don't connect with people in a genuine way for the sake of connecting with them. You connect with them for the sake of like climbing the ranks, or there's always a strategy involved. And I crave like a meaningful connection with people, just in a way that makes them happy, makes me happy, makes people want to smile, enjoy life. Like that's what is deeply important to me. Obviously paying the bills is important too, but it's just, I think that everybody generally feels that way, but I guess it mattered enough to me to take a risk.
Yes. And as I said before earlier in this episode, that risk is definitely paid off.
Are you ready to be the happiest person that you know? I hope so, and I want to be the guy to take you there. My name is Joe, and I'm a retired firefighter, and I'm the happiest person that I know, despite the fact that several years ago, I literally had a gun to my own head after an on-the-job injury forced me into a medical retirement, followed by the loss of several loved ones, and a dark battle with grief, PTSD, and depression. But I fought my way out of that, and I prevailed, and I gained unshakable joy and the amazing ability to be totally okay, even when my life circumstances aren't okay at all. And now, nothing brings me greater happiness than sharing with people the tools that led me here, which is exactly what I'm doing at the Grit, Growth, and Gratitude podcast. I'm dropping episodes every week that teach you how to maximize your happiness when times are good and barrel through any obstacle when times are rough. So subscribe now wherever you listen to podcasts, because you deserve to have way more thrive days than just survive days, and to have a kick-ass life that you enjoy. I'll see you there.
Now, to lighten it up a little bit, do you have any funny stories that you want to share?
Well, I'm not a very funny guy, although I try to be. I make an ass of myself on Instagram daily, and I kind of like the shocked responses of some of my viewers. But I have a bunch of funny stories, none of which I can actually relate properly right now. But I can tell you something interesting that happened that was probably going to be one of the most personally iconic moments, momentous occasions, whatever. Was playing for the king of Morocco in in a restaurant in Manhattan, where it wasn't really expected. And he wasn't dressed like a king, I guess, because that probably explains why the FBI was there at the entrance. But and I just gave away the punchline. Actually, what happened? I'm gonna kind of go to the funny part of the story, where I pulled up in front of this restaurant. I don't think I should mention it just for security reasons, because he may go there multiple times when he's. It's in the wall, whatever. It's Southern Manhattan region, but a district. So I get out of my car like I typically do. Sometimes I do private events there, and I'm unloading my equipment. I had to move the cones, which were in the way, and then there's it's like a black vehicle right in front of me. I'm doing it like a boss. Like, guys, get out of my way. I got to bring my stuff into the into the restaurant. This big burly guy comes up to me in sunglasses. He's like, just really nicely. He's like, "Excuse me, sir. I'm gonna have to ask you to put those those cones back. And could you please tell me what you're doing here?" I was like, "Sir, I'm working with the restaurant here. Are you the owner?" He's like, "No, I'm with the FBI." Takes out his badge. I'm like. And I'm usually, I usually don't like shake, but I don't know, just the way that he went about it. I was like thinking, is he gonna arrest me or give me a ticket? And or is my client somebody bigger than I actually had anticipated? Because sometimes I have some pretty big clients, and so I'm like, oh, okay. No problem, sir. I'm just gonna. But I kind of argue with him like in a respectful manner. I said like, this is Wall Street. I just gave it away.
I didn't hear you go Wall.
I can't really like park a mile down the road. It shouldn't be surprising that it's Wall Street. Where else are the guy gonna be hanging out? So I'm like, I can't load my equipment. Like, I don't have my roadie today. I can't load my equipment like a mile down the road. Like, if you're ever on Wall Street, it's insane. So. I said, can I just put my stuff in there for you? He's like, I'm gonna have to ask you to step in the car. So I actually had to like roll my stuff there, which was pretty unbelievable, but I wasn't gonna argue with an FBI agent. Wow. So yeah, then I found out that I was playing for the King of Morocco, and the only thing I regret about that experience was not having any Moroccan music to play. So that kind of sucked, because afterwards they're like, so they clapped. They're like, yeah, great, but a bunch of the guests on the side, they're like, you didn't have any Moroccan music. I'm like, nobody told me he was going to be here, but he asked me to come over and play. So
did he enjoy it though? Did the King of Morocco enjoy the music?
He did, and he said thank you. He was a really sweet man. And a bunch of his entourage. It was a big entourage. Probably about 4 or 5 people. Like, they asked me for my card. I haven't gotten a call from them since. I'm waiting to get a call to visit the palace. Hasn't happened yet. But that's my story for the year. I don't think anything quite measures up to that level of experience at this point.
Oh my God! I'm sure you were just frightened when the guy said, "I'm with the FBI." You're like,
well, here's the second part of the story that I actually didn't mention. It's kind of wild. I took a video. I took a video of me with the king, but not with his. Like, I didn't want him. He was kind of speaking with a couple people to the side, and I was playing some music, and then I sort of took a break, and I just wanted to show that like where I was and share it on social media. And then the owner of the restaurant, who like, he knows me and I've been there before, he's like, you gotta delete that now. Like, I was like, okay, I'll delete it. No, like, in front of me right now. I'm like, you can't be serious. So I deleted it, and apparently he didn't want me to delete it, but he said it because he was in earshot of the king, and he didn't want to get in trouble or have him not come back again for privacy reasons. So after I deleted it, he came back to me 10 minutes later. He's like, I can help you like get that video back. Gives me a wink. I'm like, you sure? Because I don't see it in my trash anymore. And he tries to show me. He's like, you have an Apple iPhone? I'm like, no. So I have an Android. Apparently with the Apple it saves. So I'm just like, I'm really frustrated. But I don't think that's a funny part of the story. But it's just like a weird kind of anecdote.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. Wow. So I mentioned that. So if you're out there, it was King Mohammed the Fifth, or the Sixth.
Okay, the Sixth.
Sixth. If you're out there and you're watching this, I look forward to meeting you again, sir. And I'll prepare a Moroccan song.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with that story.
A sequel to the story, with less like
I hope so.
moments, because it seemed like there were a few of those unexpected moments there.
A couple flat notes.
The FBI and then the owner of the restaurant, the combination. Before we go, I just want to figure out what are some of we talked about influences earlier when I was talking about cinematic influences, but what would be some of your musical influences that you feel that really helped kind of shape you as an artist?
Oh, well, legends like John Luke Ponty, legends in fusion jazz, violin, Vanessa Mae, David Garrett, and all the pop artists out there. They're definitely an influence in my music, just the cinematic type stuff. Like I mentioned, Joe Venuti. I mean, I'm just mentioning a bunch. Like Chick Corea. There's the fusion kind of fiddle vibe, the bluegrass type of vibe. I could go down a very long list. The influences are far beyond that, but those are some of the most iconic influences.
Wow.
For me, the violinist. Yeah, I just wanted to mention specifically those people because they sort of went beyond what's sort of expected of a violinist. They went into improv land, improvisation, creating music, which essentially for your listeners, just so they understand what I mean, creating music like on the fly almost, playing along to the chord progressions. And that's probably been one of the biggest, most important impacts on like instrumental impacts that have on my career. That's pretty much the reason why I do this full time. If I didn't improvise, I wouldn't be doing violin.
Yeah, because I feel that improvisation, it makes it seem natural, more organic. Because if stuff is too planned, too polished, the connection isn't the same. If that makes sense.
Yeah, at least that's how I feel. Some things are, there's a reason why why people release music on Spotify. They want it to be polished, but in a live performance, often people like the newness of a performance, as opposed to something that's like regurgitated from a previous recording.
Yeah, because it's fresh, it's exciting, and there's a lot of anticipation. Rather than just belting out the classics, maybe giving something new. Have you ever done that during a gig? Have you ever played something that was unreleased before?
I've done it on social media, which is probably not the best idea. I can't do that with syncable music that's going to be on TV for licensable reasons. But I do release, just because you mentioned that, music on asherlab.com that I do not release to Spotify. So there's the Lord of the Rings medley. I don't know if you've seen the Rings of Fire, Rings of Power, the Amazon series. I'm in love with that. So that's not on any major platform. That is specifically only on asherlab.com. And a bunch of other symphonies too. It's a few covers.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, but I perform all sorts of songs live and I post to social media that I don't release as curated, mixed and mastered, on Spotify, iTunes, that type of stuff.
Before we go, Asher, is there anything you want to tell the viewers/listeners for the audio or video version of the same episode about where they can find you? And I'll have it in my show description below. But is there anything that you just want them to know before we go?
I want you guys to know how much I love you and appreciate you. That, stop by, don't be shy, say hello.
Drop a line.
Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Asher Laub, ASHERLAUB. And asherlab.com is probably the easiest way to find me. And, I just want to mention one thing, just as far as my career goes, those of you who might be interested in making music a career, I'm grateful that I'm able to pay the bills. And I think it's important to, before you even consider a career that's a little bit risky, at least know that you can sort of pay the bills, and then you kind of take the next step in whatever it is that you're passionate about. Because that the famous joke goes, what do you call a musician without a girlfriend? Homeless. So, just a little comedy there, but just make sure that you're able to, you have some degree of success before you take a risk and venture out into no man's land. So I just want to sort of share that important piece with listeners.
Wow. Well, couldn't be better said than that. My guest today has been Asher Laub, and we're going to conclude with a song here. Until next time, folks. Thanks, Asher. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.